All right, you got me scratching my eye there. So I have a news article here that I'm just throwing it. I'm putting it out on the table. You going to disappear?
Just for a second.
All right. So I want to put this out on the table. I want us to be able to kind of grasp around some ideas that's happening in the world, and it has to do with this. The wars and rumors of wars that we always have before us, but I don't know if any of us has really taken it very seriously to think what could be coming upon the United States, what things that we need to do to take action with, to prepare for, and to stay on top of this type of news and watch for any type of hints within the news. We know that in the news, so much of it's being covered up with the COVID stuff and with the rioting and the peaceful protests is which is not the peaceful protest. But anyway, we have all that stuff. It's covering up the news. And a lot of people really don't know what's happening in the rest of the world, because did you know there's news in the rest of the world? Well, this article that I have came from the Hal Turner radio show. And this is not to cause an alarmment, but I want everybody to be on alert considering this. And this is, and we can have some thoughts. I've got some thoughts about it we can talk about here in just a moment. But this is, there was a video that was put out from inside Beijing, China, and it's been transmitted to the United States, showing that the government of China is erecting posters instructing citizens what to do in the event of an air raid, or in the event air raid sirens sound. And it says the series of posters instruct where to take shelter when in homes and buildings, and what to have in that shelter so as to be prepared. So keep that in mind, to be prepared. They're putting posters up in Beijing. In the video, viewers can see there are a total of 3 panels with posters. The first shows people going downstairs, presumably into basements. The second clearly shows a nuclear detonation and warns people not to look at the flash. And it says there's only one possible conclusion to this development. China is preparing to be attacked, which begs the question, by whom? So the only nations in this planet that have an ability to attack China and follow up with an effective ground war campaign are the United States and Russia. India certainly has the manpower, but only a few nukes of limited value. India is not a player when it comes to attacking China. Russia is, at least for now, an ally of China. That leaves the United States as the only feasible attacker. So bear in mind, why are they putting up posters about taking shelter if you hear air raid sirens, and make sure that you have preparations in the shelters, and don't look at a flash if there's a nuclear bomb. It says there's no way the United States would ever launch a first strike against China. It's simply it's simply too monstrous to imagine, never mind actually undertake. In reality, the only way the United States would attack China is if we here in America were attacked first. That reality leads us to other questions. U.S. policy is clear regarding any situation which the U.S. is attacked with chemical, biological, or nuclear weapons. Our response is a nuclear strike. It means highly unlikely the U.S. would prove China deliberately attacked the world with COVID-19. Thus, it is therefore unlikely we would ever accuse them of such, to the point that a nuclear strike would even be considered. Therein lies the problem. If China believes the U.S. is going to attack Beijing and is warning their citizens about how to take shelter in an air raid, the only other possibility is because China already knows they are going to attack the United States, and therefore know they will be attacked back. This information was, and it goes on with his experience with the FBI Joint Terrorism Task Force that he's been part of, and he says it instantly sickened his stomach when he got this information. So the next point is that if the people start to panic, just remember what happened when the panic of the COVID-19 started, and they were going to lock down everything. And what happened first? There were shortages. There are shortages. People started going after toilet paper. They're starting going after basic supplies. We couldn't find any meat. And there was just a bunch of other things that were going on. Just think if this were to be an issue or the threat actually becomes a bigger deal. If China sees that the cat's out of the bag and Americans are preparing in earnest, they may accelerate any plans they have and attack before we can stock up. So that's where we're at. That's what we're looking at. There's a couple other things that we need to pay attention to. One is gold. Gold has spiked up over $1,920. If you've been watching silver had gotten up into the $23 range. I don't know what it is today. I haven't checked it out. But silver is spiking, where just a month ago is down at about $15. So silver is spiking. We know that there's a financial crisis. The fact that we've been printing money out there like it's, to cover all these bills, whatever, to pay all these things out there, printing money. It's causing a flood of money into the system. So therefore, precious metal prices are actually going up. The thing that I wanted to bring up then on this article is a couple different things. Is this really something that China is looking at in terms of a risk? Is this really a risk? I know that I've been reading some scuttle involving an attack of an EMP. We've talked about this for years, an EMP attack upon the United States, but that has been recycled and coming back again to the forefront because of these other elements. We know that in China, they've built those islands out there in the Pacific Ocean, claiming that is their territory. They put their naval and air bases on there. They have ramped up their systems. They have shown us new weapons that we may or may not have a defense against. Many have said we don't have a defense against some of these weapons that China has and what Russia has. We have the concern that we have been in a trade war with China since President Trump came in and started changing up the treaties, not the treaties, but the different things that we have had with China in regards to the laws regarding trade. We know that's affected their economy. We know that they're open for business, but much of America is still shut down for business because of the COVID lockdown, and China is not even worried about the COVID element. They're completely up and running over there. We know that, so we've had economic attacks against them in changing the trade rules. They have come back to attack our economy with the release of the COVID and the propaganda that's really in the hysteria of the mainstream media. We have these type of things. Plus, the United States has 3 carrier groups over there in the South China Sea and in the area around Taiwan, because there is a major concern that China is ramping up to take Taiwan, because they believe that Taiwan belongs to China. And so we've got a lot of tensions that are going on. Now, some have said that this is an annual event. They do this as a preparation for people to always have on their mind the ability to be aware that it's always existent. The concern is always existent, and therefore they do these drills every year and practice these drills in China. I don't know if that's true or not. That's just one comment that was in the comment section. Others feel that Russia, China, Iran, Venezuela, possibly North Korea, they all have reasons to attack America, and that are joining together in an alliance that, while we're so focused on, and this is part of the Dmitri Duduman prophecies and Henry Groover, we're so focused on our domestic issues, when the streets of America are on fire, that there would be a sudden attack upon America. And so therefore, when there's a sudden attack upon America, we know that America would strike back in one way or another. That's why we have our Navy spread throughout the world, where we can, if America is disabled in itself, we do have nuclear subs carrying warheads, that it would be a complete devastation around the world. So these are some things I wanted to put on the table today that I wanted to talk about. Do we have, what type of concern do we have? Do we have issues that we need to take care of? not only in terms of our preps, many people in this community do have preparations in terms of food, in terms of supplies and that type of thing, expecting this day would come. But what about things like if you wear glasses, have you considered getting an extra set of glasses or two? Because if we do have problems and another shutdown and a breakdown in our supply chain, the ability to get eyeglasses, the ability to get prescription medications, the ability to go to the dentist, even if you've got some dental issues you've been putting off to get done, maybe there's some issues that you need to take care of, and get some, because the last thing you want, you can deal with a broken bone, you can set a broken bone in the field. But what if you have some dental issues? What are you going to do? Those things can be life-threatening. Some things to be thinking about. What are you going to do if the internet goes down and you don't have access to pull up information, to pull up news, to pull up survival information? How do you take care? How do you do basic things with what you have in your house if you're not your regular do-it-yourself kind of person, which most people aren't? We're dependent upon supply chain to provide everything that we need, and other people with other skills to help us and take care of our basic needs. Are we ready? Do we have water, a filtration system? Not just water, bottled water, you're going to use that up very quickly. Do you have a filtration system? So to be able to make sure you have drinking water, purified water, besides the ability to flush toilets and that type of thing. Do you have a way to deal with that? And so this is kind of on the lines of preparation, but the analysis is in there. We have others that are out there that have been talking about how the Earth will be going through a debris field where much of North America and Europe could be struck with asteroids and be quite devastating. And it's possibly is starting in September, and that during that time, the concern is that we may also be affected, that we may come under attack at that time. So these are some serious questions we need to be asking. We do know that we've got the protection of Yahweh. We also know that to be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord. So we should not fear death. And that's one of the things that we come to the reality of. The hysteria that's in the media concerning COVID-19 is many people are so frightful. But the fact is, if you're a believer in Yeshua, we should not fear these things that are coming upon us. We just know that the Father has a plan. Are we listening? And that is really another one of the big issues in terms of the preps. Have we developed our ability to listen, to hear what the Father's saying? And it's very interesting, and it kind of struck me the other day. Sandi and I were out in our garden, and Sandi says, "I lost the gray tape." She calls duct tape gray tape, and she said, "Where's the?" Okay, we're back. So I was talking about how Sandi had misplaced the duct tape, and we use the duct tape to get the squash bugs and the squash bug eggs and that type of thing. You just put them, squeeze them, get them. All right. So she's like, where did I put it? And I said, I don't know. I said, okay, Father, I don't know where she put it. Can you tell me where she put it? So he said, tell her to. He said, look on the water pump or filter. I'm like, okay. So I looked around the tomato plants, and there it was sitting on top of the water pump filter. And it's like, okay, it's over there. We need to be, but what I'm trying to say is have we developed our ability to hear the voice of the Lord, to say, because he might wake us up in the middle of the night and says, you need to get up and go right now. And then if you're ready to get up and go right now, do you have a go bag to be able to throw in the back of your vehicle and go right now? And so I think we live in those interesting times, whether it's going to be riots in the streets of our neighborhood and we need to go right now, or stay in place and defend our home, to be able to hear the Lord and wake up and say, protect your home. Are we in that place where we are listening, we're hearing, we're prepared, we know that voice of the Lord, we're familiar with it enough to say, that's his voice, he said do it, I got to do it now. Because remember what happens about delayed obedience. That's and the ramifications of that. So I want to throw it out to you guys, talk to you here, and bring Mr. Guest head back with us. And I want to hear what your thoughts are about, I mean, we live in these interesting times, and I think it's certainly subjects we need to put on the table.
You're muted.
You're muted, Mark. We're not hearing you.
Somebody muted my mic. There we go. Well, I was just imitating you guys.
Oh, thank you.
Right now, our go bag is being used for our beach bag. We need to have a bag that we can just grab and go when we go to the beach. So, at any time that something should happen, then we'll put our go bag back together. So that's a joke. You guys are just so solid.
I was like, that's pretty good. Go to the beach bag. Bag.
It's a go bag. Yeah. So anyway, no, but that was interesting. I hadn't the thought of China being attacked has not crossed my mind at all, and so thank you for bringing that up, because that now gets me to thinking, and that's interesting. I mean, it's we have amazing proof that all this was started by China. It seems to me like if anybody would go against China, it's like the whole world would do it. But it's kind of, what's the point to do that? I mean, why attack China because they did that? Today they don't attack countries for doing stuff like that. You just put sanctions on them and you just yell at them or whatever. I don't know. I like the fact that Trump doesn't even call this COVID or coronavirus. He calls it the CB, which is China virus. I like that. I like that a lot. I think I think that is the politically correct term to use all the time, no matter what, the China virus.
Yes.
Anyway, but as far as attacking China is concerned, interesting thing to think about, because I mean, they're ready. Why shouldn't we? And are they ready? Are we? I don't think it's going to happen. I think realistically, I think you guys will agree that as far as physical military attacks are probably pretty darn close to a thing of the future, or I mean, a thing of the past. The future thing is, as far as wars are concerned, will be a technology war. I mean, in so many different ways. I see both of you looking off into both of you looked up and around.
We had some birds.
I see.
Bird right there.
Oh, okay. Well, I said that, and it's almost like you guys are thinking about it, And I was a little surprised, because I kind of think you guys already know that our future wars will literally be technical wars, don't you think? I mean, and we're already in technical wars with China, because they're constantly. Wait, you have a bird flying around in your living room?
We have a big window, and
it's above the front door.
It's above the front door, and there's a nest of birds in our
in the entryway coming up to the door.
And the mama bird is fluttering, feeding the baby birds, and she just flew by the window and was just.
Okay, do you guys want to throw something over that and actually listen to what I'm saying? Because you're not even listening to me. You haven't heard a word I've said for the past 10 minutes.
I have. You said it's going to be a technological war.
Good Lord. Come on, man. Anyway, But I mean, seriously, we constantly hear about China hacking this and China hacking that and all kinds of stuff. So
And Clinton selling secrets and Obama selling secrets to China.
Yeah.
Let's put this in perspective, though. What happened this last week? The Houston Chinese consulate was shut down. They were burning papers in the courtyard before the shutdown of the consulate occurred. The United States actually went in. They said, we're not going to leave. They actually went in, and the doors were locked from the inside. And even a lot of the staff had left. I don't know what happened when they got inside. They had to break into the building to make sure it was cleared out. But why? Because the Chinese espionage has been very, very big within our university systems, within our country. They're stealing trade secrets. They're stealing all sorts of different things. They've been doing it for years. That stuff's been handed over since the Clinton administration, where they basically gave them carte blanche to do so. President Trump has stepped it up. They've closed down that consulate. There's another person that they were looking for, and he went and hid in the San Francisco consulate, the Chinese consulate. What happened, if you go back into history, when Japan was about ready to attack the United States in Pearl Harbor, they burned all of their papers at the embassy and closed it down right before Pearl Harbor. I mean, there's historical type of cycles that we pay attention to. So, and again, what the report was talking about a first strike against the United States, which we would respond, and that's why they're telling their people to always be ready, because we wouldn't attack China first.
So they attack us, and then they need to be ready for us to attack them.
Yeah.
Even though they've already attacked first
and going
through China virus.
Right. And going back. So they've with the China virus, they've attacked the United States. They attacked the world, actually. They crippled the entire world. And why is that? Because you cripple the world, you destroy economies, you destroy fiat currency, then you can buy up property, you can buy up land, you can buy up resources real cheap. And what has China been doing over the last 20 years is they've been buying land. They've been going into what they call the Silk Road Initiative, going into the nations of the world, buying the nation's debt.
Right.
And they've been building military bases. They've been they have so much in Africa, where they've been taking over the resources in Africa, the mines and the gold mines, silver mines, the platinum mines, the lithium mines in Afghanistan. We provide the protection in Afghanistan for them to mine the lithium in Afghanistan. So there is so much that's going on that China's taking advantage of, and yet America is the threat, because America has been standing up against their world expansion, and in so many different ways, joining together with Russia, what they've said in the news is that if Hillary Clinton had won the election, we would have already been attacked by Russia. That's what Russia already said. They said that. That's public information. And yet, what had happened in the last 3.5 years? It's always been Russia, Russia, Russia. They've been the bad guy. They've been the boogeyman. They've been put. There's only so much, and then we put all these sanctions against Russia, and then there's been all these explosions and attacks against Iran recently, and we also had that recent attack in San Diego. One of our boats was burned for 5 days. I mean, how does a metal boat burn for 5 days? We're living these times. So I think technologically, I think you're right, Mark. It has been a technological war. There's been all sorts of hacking and cyber wars going on. But at some point in time, does it go hot? And
I wouldn't have thought.
Yeah. So, I mean, these are some thoughts.
But I think it's interesting that they're looking at shelters, though. The United States doesn't have anything like that.
No, we don't even have a basement. Most people don't.
Yeah, in Midwest they do. A lot of people in the Midwest have a lot of, where I'm from, everybody had a basement. Not out here in North Carolina, they don't. But I remember several years ago, hearing, news stories about China buying the United States national parks. Do you remember that? And, and that was my first, inkling into realizing that China was coming into the United States buying so much. And it's like, if we actually, hypothetically, if we did go into a physical war with China, is it not indifferent than the Muslims already have so many people embedded in the United States that if we went to go at war with the Muslims, all they have to do is rise up right here in the United States and they're already here. They're already ready to go. And is it the same with China? Have they got a plan and they already have all over the world? You're talking about all these different places they're buying up and the military bases and stuff. Is it because they are ready if any one country or like the United States or global? I mean, hey, come on. We're talking about, Armageddon worldwide going on here. If everybody were to be really upset about the corona or the China virus in China and rise up against them, all they'd have to do is flip a switch and all over the world, people that are ready to go, all they got to do is just rise up and let's go.
Yeah.
I'm wondering here. It's indifferent. Joe mentioned, which was real good because is real true. Look at Roman history. Look at the same thing they did, for so long as they went through all the pogroms, the literally what I want to say, they just went through all the lands, killing everybody and taking over every country and the whole thing. This is not unusual. This is history. It's already happened. There's nothing new under the sun. They've been doing it since, the beginning of time. They just go through the world. And today, though, with transportation and everything that they can do, they can secretly set up stuff all over the world and already be ready. Everybody needs to be afraid. Fear, rise up, fear. Get in line. Sorry. I got a little passionate there. Sorry.
But it's really important. You're bringing up the recently China bought 130 or 160,000 acres of land down there near Fort Hood here in Texas, and
that makes me angry.
They were given.
It's even allowed.
There you go.
They were given. President Trump took the port there at Long Beach away from them this year. But it's also been reported in multiple sources that during these outbreaks of the BLM riots and Antifa riots is that around the nation, they've been capturing shipments of guns and silencers that have come in from China I don't know where they were intended to go to, or parts to guns.
So they have been confiscating weapons and parts for weapons that China has shipped in, tried to ship in secretly to a population of Chinese here,
or Chinese, or just
Chinese allies,
or to continue to create the mayhem here within the streets. And then plus, China has much ownership of Hollywood. And if you look at most films over the last 5 years, you can see they all have Chinese credits.
You're right. That's exactly right. The beginning, who produced this or what's the production company, about half of them have Chinese figures you can't even read. Language on it and stuff. You're absolutely right. Now that's just wrong. To take over the movies, that's wrong. I want to come against that.
Mm-hmm.
That I don't care about the other stuff, but when you start taking over my movies, buddy, I'm coming after you.
Well, and because it's a propaganda piece, therefore now they control the scripts that are coming out of out of Hollywood. And the very fact that they did the remake of Red Dawn, and Red Dawn was China.
I know.
And then they made them change it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that. Everybody should rewatch both movies, the first one and the second one, man. Watch them. Hey, that's what we should be doing, getting that ready like that.
So these are all layers. They're all of the asymmetrical warfare that's been going on. We have really been in war for more than just during the Trump administration. China's been planning this for years. They're long-term planners. It's just now with President Trump, all these things are really coming to the surface. So it makes us think, okay, what type of time do we have? What type of time limits? Do we have anything to be concerned about? Or is this year going to be much like last year and we're going to get through the COVID thing and we're just going to go on with life and that type of thing? Or are we really coming up to that point in the wall? And we've been talking about it for years. Sandy and I have talked about it for years. And that is, how do we deal with these things to prepare? So many people they said, okay, we know we need to prepare, and have done nothing. Well, at some point in time, there will be no longer preparing. It's just, we have what we have. And so we must be aware. We must stay on top of these things. So
Joe said something about a Trojan horse. It's kind of, you start thinking about that concept, and that's what I was talking about is, it's time to go. All they got to do is flip a switch. Hey, here's an idea. I wonder if silently the Muslims took over China several years ago, and they silently did it, and now they have control, and they're just using China as their cover. And so, just the thought anyway.
Yep. It's really good. And Joe come back in and said, do your research. Yet also remember when Yeshua said, when all these things are happening, look up. And that's exactly because our redemption draws nigh. And I just want to say this too, is that some people said, at what point in time can America be saved? Well, honestly, some have said that threshold was crossed a long time ago, but God's people can be saved. And we are a people, we are a unique generation. We don't fear the future, but remember this, is that I believe completely the promise of Psalm 91 is more for us today than any other time in history. Not that it wasn't applicable, but it's Psalm 91 that the Father has provided for us to not only to give us to comfort us, but that is an active protection that we can hide under the shadow of his wing, and that we can be protected in the midst of all that. And when everything else is breaking out, we don't even have the ability to get news. Guess what? The Father can speak to us about the news that's going on that we need to know, that's going to be part of our survival. Yet, as Noah did, the day was going to come that the floods were going to hit the earth. And so he built an ark, and he prepared, and he stored up, and he got ready. In Acts, they were told prophetically that a famine was coming, and they began to prepare for 14 years. And at the time that the famine hit, then the body of Messiah in Jerusalem and in that area, they were able to provide not only for their needs, but for many in the needs in their community, because the Father had warned them and told them that time was coming. So, we say these things because we need to be aware and watchful, and say, be prepared. The current events tell us the story of how prophecy is unfolding before us.
I want to hear more from Sandy.
I agree with him.
Hey, I agree. I agree with him too.
All I know is that we're living in the day and the hour, and we need to be abreast of what's going on around us, but we also need to hold strong to the word and know that word is more powerful. It trumps whatever unfolds, however it is. We've got to be so close to him that we hear his voice.
Yeah.
And if he says go, we go. If he says stay, we stay. If he said do this, we do this. But at the same time, we shouldn't just push away what's happening around us and say, well, God's going to take care of it. He is. But we also need to, in an army or in battle, you are always aware of your enemy's strategies. If not, you will be defeated. And so therefore, for us to just turn a blind eye and ignore what's happening around us and not research for the truth, you cannot listen to mainstream media. You will get no truth there. But you've got to look beyond. You've got to search it out, almost like you have to search out the scriptures. You have to search out for the truth, even in what's happening in our society today. And once you've got to be aware, not to move in fear, but so that you see how the strategies of the enemy, and you know how to prepare best. Yes, Yahweh can tell you without that, but there are ways out there. We can't be the ostrich that sticks their head in the sand. Mm-hmm. And so many are. And I just stand amazed. I was out and about in the community the other day, and people are ignorant of what is going on around them. I was with one of my friends, and just sitting around the conversation, they had no idea what we're talking about. And we live in a place where we're supposed to be the Bible Belt, but I will say this, the millennials are the most clueless generation I've ever known, or what is ever under them too. Just that. Yeah, I know. 15 through, I don't know. And that doesn't mean everyone. That just means the majority. Because as we started speaking, we started speaking what was happening, literal facts of what's happening. The millennials left the room, and they were the servers. They literally left the room and said, we can't handle that. They can't handle anything that's on their own agenda, that's not on their own course of thought. Yeah. And that is actually the liberals. The liberals are that way. If you don't agree with the leftist, if you don't agree with them, then you can't speak. But that shows how unprepared they are. And I think one of our prayers needs to be, how do you reach that generation? Because they've been so brainwashed from schools, from society, from media, from Hollywood. They are so brainwashed now that they're going to have something that will something major that will wake them up from their stupor, because they believe it. They believe it in all heart and soul, and they will. Yeah. They're going to die spiritually as well as physically in the midst of the chaos that's already around us, much less the chaos, the continued chaos that's coming, that's going to be even greater.
So, and this is one thing we got to keep in mind too, fear paralyzes. So we as believers must deal with the fear now, because when times become stressful, and because it's not about a matter of if, it's when. And so when times become stressful, if we've not dealt with the fear, we will be paralyzed. And that will be the demise of many, many people, because they are their whole world is upside down. They won't know what to do, but it also will cause people to do things that they thought they would never, ever do. And we have to be prepared for all those types of scenarios. And so anyway, that's why I say deal with the fear now. We don't say these things to fear monger. We're saying be on alert. This is a time that we must be awake more than any other time.
Real true. Real true.
So don't be paralyzed with fear. Understand there's nothing that can harm us, nothing that can take away our salvation through Yeshua the Messiah. Nothing can. Nothing can affect our spirit. It's only our own choices. But
our own choices can take us away.
But going back to this thing with fear, that's what they want to do. That's how you control the people, is through fear. That's how they're controlling.
I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said anything. Go. Keep.
No. Yeah, with the coronavirus, with the masks and all that sort of stuff. What is the whole thing about? They just control people, manipulate people with the hysteria, and that is, and we must not be a people that's controlled by that. We must be of sound mind. We've not been given a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. And we cannot lose any one of those elements: power, love, or sound mind.
We are richly blessed to bring you what we believe is the fullest, most diverse, yet up-to-date progressive teachings, discussion, and prayer programming you can find anywhere on this planet. Be sure to take the tour of the MessianicLambRadio.com website. I'm Susan Hoogie, thanking you for joining us on the Messianic Lamb Video Network.